rights protects us from arbitrary government that would pick on us or punish us regardless of our religion or our race or things like that. And so we ought to have recourse to the law to rein in politicians who have no authority to do what they did. First of all, there's the matter of a signed contract. You simply can't have busybody politicians with no information about the conference, with no notice to anyone, in a 20-minute log, rip up a signed contract. You simply cannot do that under contract. And how can you do that in a city that wants to be known as a destination for conferences? It is bad business. It's bad normal. Well, I mean, I tell you, if you were at a convention thinking of coming to Nanaimo, you would think, but that's just business. That's just business. What about what we saw on tape? And how interesting that the whole thing is on tape, almost like a closed-circuit TV at a crime scene. I mean, it's very rare to see every word on tape.
How do they rescind that, Ezra?
How do
they rescind what this?
Well, you simply put a motion to repeal it. Well,
you lie.
Well,
like you said.
You know what? I don't know what's in their hearts. Bill Bestwick said that he regrets it. I'm going to take the man on his word.
Stick around.
But if, and we're going to, and today my cameraman is coming on a later flight. He missed the flight I was on. He's going to catch up.
I'll be here soon.
I'm going to talk to Bill McKay. Talk to him a bit. We're going to talk to James Lunny. I might have a few other tricks up my sleeve. I don't want to give away right now. But as you may have seen on the show, our viewers put together more than $5,000 for a civil liberties group called the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom. And their lead lawyer, John Carpe, who I've known for more than 10 years, I think he's a good man. And what he is doing is he's doing his legal due diligence right now to look at what legal case can be made, not only to overturn the ban, but to get some other justice as may be fit. He is doing the kind of reasoned analysis that this city council can. And so let me ask you a personal request. If you know of someone who bought a ticket to that meeting, if you know of someone who had some involvement with it, who was ambushed by this, please let me know who they are, because that person may have legal standing to file a case. I mean, it would be stronger to have an actual person who suffered actual damage pursuing this legally than just a general member of the public, although that may be possible as well. I believe that we need to set an example, not just for Nanaimo, but I think Nanaimo has to be a precedent for every city and town across Canada.
Yes. Amen. Yes.
Spending money with not well thought out decisions, backroom deals probably made, and stuff, motions coming in at the last moment when the rest of the council doesn't know anything about it, or they're being steered by senior staff. There's a bigger issue than just this.
Well, I can tell by the way this went through. I mean, there was a city staffer there. Quietly said a couple of things to this point. First of all, he said,
Oh, thank you.
You know, a light Christian flavor. Laura Bush, Malcolm Gladwell, Desmond Tutu, all of them have a bit of a Christian background. So it was a very light Christian flavor. But the city manager, I think it was, said, well, this is actually not about gay marriage or anything. Like, he tried to gently correct the council once, and then he also said it wasn't city staff that brought this motion, it was Councillor Patchy. So if you listen to the quietest guy in the room, the city staffer, he basically said, very diplomatically, this is on you, elected politicians, and indeed it was. Imagine bringing a motion with no notice to your fellow councillors, let alone the parties involved. The only explanation for that is you're trying to pull a fast one. Now, I don't intend to dig deep into 100 different issues in Nanaimo that may cause someone to reject this city council. every city in town has its own quarrels with its own leaders.
This one's bad.
I don't doubt it. Seeing them handle this issue, and I know about
Worse
the
than bad.
$120,000
Criminal.
that is a world famous toilet, and you do not want that to be the global symbol of the world.
It's a real wipeout.
But let me tell you, a far worse symbol for Nanaimo would be the town where bigotry lives. And I think that this town, it's a city, I know it's a city, I say town because it feels small compared to Toronto. This city has actually a great opportunity to turn a bad thing into a good thing. Because right now there's a bad thing going on where in the light of day on TV cameras in a 20-minute mob mentality scenario that you've all watched now, they ripped up the contract and they have a permanent ban on anything they find divisive. Well, I mean, that's so ridiculous because any question that they vote on is a division, yes or no. That's actually the phrase you use in a House of Commons legislation, all for a division. And there are many questions that the answer is yes or no. It's not always a maybe or a gray area. So it's absolutely absurd to give that group of people the ultimate authority based on their own whims and tastes of what's divisive or not. Aren't they divisive? Aren't we all divisive when we choose this over that, or don't choose this over that? And well, it's our right as individuals to make our own choices. But when they are acting in the name of the government with public money, then they are bound by the Charter of Rights. If you read the Charter of Rights, and I encourage everyone of you to do so, because I know that one of the young counselors whose name is just escaping right now, George Anderson.
Went from high school to council.
That's right. And so, you know what? I appreciate the youthful enthusiasm. I was young once, and so I appreciate that youthful ambition. But when he said that our own Charter of Rights allows this, he had not read it. And the Charter of Rights is so easy to read. I encourage each of you to do so, and you will find the very first sentence in that document talks about the supremacy of God and rule of law.
Amen.
And that's divisive in itself, isn't it? And that, both elements of that, the supremacy of God and the rule of law were violated by City Council on May 5th, both elements. And if you read it, the very first substantive section, section 2, is called Fundamental Freedoms, and it lists the very first fundamental freedom in this country is freedom of conscience. That is the very first one, even before the right to vote. Because what use is a vote if you can't have your conscience? And so what they did on May 5th was say, if you dare have a view in your conscience, in your heart, if you hold a belief, if you hold a religion that they do not like, you will have your rights ripped up, and you will be under a permanent injunction, a restraining order, really. That's what that resolution is, a restraining order. On May 5th, they passed a resolution that, if you read the rest, you know what, I've got it here. Let me read it to you right now. I'm going to read you the exact wording of the resolution that was passed on May 5th. City of Nanaimo, it is moved and seconded that the City of Nanaimo advise the ICC that as owners of the facility, any events that are associated with organizations or people that promote or have a history of divisiveness, homophobia, or other expressions of hate not be permitted, and as such advise the VIC not to permit in a city-owned facility the upcoming LeaderCast event that is scheduled for May 9th. So the first part is anyone that they label hateful or homophobic or divisive, according to their standards and their definitions, and we heard what Jim Kipp thinks is hateful, anyone who's strongly Christian. Imagine saying that about a Jew. Imagine saying that about someone who was gay.
A Muslim.
Imagine saying, if you're in the closet, you're okay, but if you're an out gay, you're strong, like, switch the word gay for Christian there, and how soon would he have to resign? Or say, if you're sort of a non-observant Jew, you're okay, but if you're a strong Jew, you wear a kippah. I mean, like, switch a good test for me, if someone's discriminating, is swap out the word Christian for something else. And I keep watching that clip of Jim Kipp comparing strong Christians to terrorists and organized crime. I am not joking. It sounds like you got to watch the video.
Isn't that judge, jury, and executioner?
Well, and but at least a judge, jury, and executioner has due process. At least there is a trial. But what you had here was an ambush motion with no trial. So I came to town today because I wanted to talk to folks. My cameraman's late. He's probably on his way now. I had no idea how many people were here. I thought there might be 5 or 10. When I went to Tim Hortons with my friend Matt, I said, let's get 100 Timbits. I'll finish them. They're going well. But it looks like we might even need more. I do want to talk to a couple of the city leaders that I mentioned. We have telephoned on several occasions every single councillor. Bill McKay has come on my show, as you know, and he's going to talk to me again today. And no one else has agreed to talk. Now, I think I might have a chance to connect with Bill Bestwick, but the rest of them simply refuse, which I think shows something. It shows that they do not feel they can make a case that can withstand the scrutiny
They're afraid
of the public.
Well, our mayor's not leading. He's not leading. The
Well,
mayor
I think
should
he
be
was
leading.
leading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And listen, we all do that from time to time. We all make mistakes from time to time. And in his defense, he was ambushed and surprised with this, okay?
He's a
but
grown-up.
he's a grown-up, and he's the mayor, and it's his job to say, we need more information. We need to delay this. I don't feel comfortable having this trial in absentia. You know?
Yeah.
So he failed, but let us be generous and say, we all make mistakes. Let's fix the mistake.
That's right.
But after contemplating it for 2 months,
Where is he today?
after hearing the pastors come on June 16th, after getting hundreds of phone calls and emails, I know because I've been copied on a great many of them, then it's no longer a mistake. Then it is a willful decision. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
You are the mayor,
Yes.
and you're given...
He should be here today.
Vancouver and Whitewater.
How do you know? Give me more information. Who told you? Really? Isn't that amazing? I have heard something, and if you have more tips like this, tell it to me. I have heard that they have, on a confidential basis, already started making payments to people whose contracts they ripped up improperly. Do you have any information about that? Isn't that interesting? You know what? That $120,000 toilet, that's a scandal. If it's a slick, big city PR firm, that $120,000 toilet's going to look like a bargain pretty soon. And here's my point: you make a mistake, you were hustled into it by Councillor Patchy. You were ambushed. Fine. Benefit of the doubt. But when you have a half dozen pastors coming a month later and you still dig in your heels, and when you dig in again and again, then then there is no room for the benefit of the doubt. There is no doubt anymore.
Ezra,
Yeah.
we got Mr. McKay over here. Bill?
Bill McKay's.
Yeah, Bill. Some of my friends, look what happened. I didn't bring enough Timbits. Where's mine? Yeah. There might be a
Bill
couple
McKay for mayor.
Bill, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on my show the other day. I'm a little bit hot.
We all are.
I might do that. I just want to look, I'm leading. What am I doing exactly? Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on the show. I've told people my objections to it from a legal point of view and a contract law point of view. And I just finished saying, I don't know if you heard me, that it's one thing for folks to sort of have been railroaded into a decision quickly with no notice. But it's been 2 months now of reflection, and the city seems to be digging in its heels. What do you say about that?
Well, I'm not digging in my heels.
Oh, I know you have it.
Yeah, the challenge that we have here is relative to reconsideration of this motion.
the BC Community Charter doesn't allow reconsideration in something that's already been acted upon. But I've subsequently, in the last week or so, received evidence that this conference was already canceled on Friday before our event.
Oh my God.
Now, having said that, this motion then becomes irrelevant.
Well, the part about canceling the conference does, but the first part of the resolution, which I read out, gives this council a perpetual right to cancel anything divisive. But if you can't unvote a vote, surely you could bring a new motion to dispose of this.
Well, if we're talking about technicalities, okay, the technical portion of it was that I couldn't vote on this simply because we didn't have enough information. And good leadership doesn't make decisions based on scanty information. We can't reconsider based on the charter.
Right.
But with this new information that in fact the conference had already been canceled by the conference center, this motion is invalid.
Listen,
So we just simply repeal it.
Well, listen,
So
whatever
who are we
it
firing
takes,
at the conference
we ought to
center?
do it.
Yeah, who canceled
I
it?
am curious about what you've said, but I don't want to be distracted from what they actually said and did.
Yes.
I mean, and I see some attempts to wiggle here. I don't actually want City Council to get off on a technicality. I want them to grapple with what they said and did,
Amen.
and either own it or disown it. Now that gentleman there tells me that the city has retained an expensive PR firm in Vancouver to help them brazen their way through this. Do you know anything about that?
Whitewash it.
I'm not aware of that.
But who actually canceled it?
It's my understanding that the conference center canceled it.
Well, we have
That's
employees
the
there.
reason.
The management of the conference center canceled it on Friday.
Who told them to?
Well,
I honestly don't know who told them, whether they did on their own volition.
So they were already.
But I have hard evidence to say that that the event was canceled.
Interesting, isn't it?
Now,
Someone's falling on the sword.
having said that, as far as that then makes that motion invalid.
That may be, but then it raises even more questions. Who pressed them to council? Who was it? Fred Patchy talking to the convention center directly? There's a bunch of new questions, but I will not be distracted from what I know happened on
Amen.
the
Yes. Hallelujah.
That's right.
And both of us are structuring a motion to go forward at our next available meeting.
And when do you think that'll be?
Well, July 14th is our next scheduled meeting. However, 2 days ago, I begged the mayor to convene an emergency open meeting of council to deal with this one issue. And that was 2 days ago, and I've not yet received a reply from the mayor. Now,
Okay, go ahead.
having said that, what's interesting about all of this, I want it off the books.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I don't ever want us to be held up as judge and jury. Never again.
This city can't be branded that way.
You know what's interesting is I found a very interesting quote from Forbes magazine recently, where a business leader in the United States made a statement that leaders, as they mature and as they grow, they realize the mistakes they make, and they do everything in their power to correct them.
That's why I slew Bill Bestwick. He was wrong on May 5th, but you told me he's come around, and let's allow that man to do the right thing.
That quote goes on,
Yeah.
and he says, to do anything other than that, you are just a fool. That was Dan Cathy that made that statement.
Oh, isn't that incredible? Bill, let me tell you something, and I'm going to give you guys sort of a sneak preview. You may know that over the last 2 days, a large opinion poll was conducted in Nanaimo. Did any of you receive that opinion poll?
No.
A firm called Campaign Research did a large opinion poll on this issue, asking 3 main questions. Are you aware of this issue and this motion? Do you oppose or support this motion? Do you think this will harm Nanaimo's reputation? And I guess there was one last question, which is this an important issue in the next election?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
We commissioned that poll, and we're going to air it on our show on Friday, but I will give you a... Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes, I just say great. We
You
have
will
to
be
fight.
amazed, and Bill, I'm telling you this because the election's coming up in November. not only do 2/3 of Nanaimoites know about this issue, which is incredible to me. You know, it's in the middle of the summer, there's a million things going on. 2/3 of people in this city are aware of this. That's incredible. Overwhelmingly, I'm not going to give you the exact stats, you're going to have to watch the show on Friday. Overwhelmingly, people are opposed to the motion and want it repealed, and most of them think it will be important in the next election. I'm going to hold those statistics back. So here's the question. I see two tracks happening. One is John Carpe, the civil liberties lawyer, who is looking for plaintiffs to tackle this law in a serious rule of law kind of way. Using the charter, using contract law, and not in back.
That it be repealed. That means it's struck.
Okay.
Number two, that an independent third party chosen by council will investigate all of the events leading up to the cancellation of this event. And number three, it will name that person and it will provide the resources so that person can accomplish the task.
Well, I mean, there are some good things in that, and I hope it passes. I'm going to be honest, I don't think it will. I think there's some people on city council who have a little bit too much pride.
That's right.
To even say repeal. I read the public statement.
That's why they should all resign.
The city council issued. The word apology and sorry are not in here. You haven't called for an apology or anything like that. I still think there's too much pride in there for that to go through. I'm going to keep watching. Bill, I know you're one of the good guys. I think I love Nanaimo. I come through here at least 4 times a year. My in-laws have a place just up the road, so we love coming through here. I feel a certain affection for Nanaimo, but I don't live here. I don't pay taxes here. I don't have to live under City Hall here. I'm not going to run for office here, but I feel that this is a national issue.
Yes.
I feel that how this is resolved will be watched all across Canada.
Yes.
And that's actually the main reason I care. Not because I love passing through it.
But the lawyer we want is a city lawyer, right? Or local.
Well, John Carpe is the civil liberties lawyer. He's in Calgary now. He's lived in BC before. He can practice in either jurisdiction.
Okay.
And I know that he's dogged and determined. We may wind up getting a BC lawyer as well. But John Carpe has already started working on this with 2 assistants. So I believe he's the man for this, just because I know he is motivated only by one thing, civil liberties.
Good on you.
Bill, I'd like to interview you on camera as well, but there is one thing I'd like to say for those of you who have to go back to work or whatever your appointments are. I believe that this battle will take months to solve. Even if your motion succeeds, Bill, and I'm skeptical, I think that there are things we still need to know and fights that need to be fought. And if I don't know Fred Patchy, but from my observations, he's not done yet.
That's right.
And Councillor Kip is not done yet either.
That's right.
So
Are you going to talk to Fred Patchy?
he refuses my invitation, as does the mayor.
They should resign.
Well, they don't have a duty to talk to me. I'm not an Nanaimoite. But they certainly have a duty to answer to you, man. Because you are one. And I believe that this will take legal, media, and political fight.
Yes.
And I enjoy all 3 of those things. And so, can I ask you guys to do one thing? If you're interested in participating on the ground, can you send me an email with your name? Here's what I mean. We're going to run some radio ads. They were supposed to start tonight, but we're haggling with the radio station. They're getting a little nervous about these radio ads. So I want to run some radio ads.
Amen.
The poll will be released on Friday. We have other things that are coming because we've got to counteract the Vancouver PR firm that I am quite certain that gentleman was correct when he said they'd be retained. I also understand there have been private payments made. I think that this fight will continue in a number of ways. And I personally think we need to have a legal statement that what that motion did was wrong. Not a loophole technicality just to make it go away. Not a divisiveness. Because one thing you can say to your Christian neighbor and to your gay neighbor is, we're all equal in Nanaimo, and we all have the same rights to use the convention center and other public property.
Yes.
So it is not a campaign of divisiveness or hatefulness, to quote Jim Kip. It's actually the opposite. It's a restatement of Nanaimo's core principles of equality before the law. So it is not a negative campaign, and it's not one that anyone should be offended by, other than those who want to slip through their own ban.
Ezra, can I ask you a
Go
question?
ahead.
Is the way that's worded, can they use it if your church youth group wants to use a swimming pool, if they see it that it is, if the group is strongly Christian, could they turn down that?
Well, I read the motion to you. It's very vague. It's in their own decision who's to visit. So let me ask you this: